Technology adoption follows a predictable curve. It starts with a narrow window of early adopters before expanding out into the mainstream. So when a new technology enters the market, there's a brief period where it's genuinely differentiating. One customer gets an advantage because they're using something faster, cheaper, or better, but that's just a window. And as the technology diffuses or spreads out, that advantage closes. You remember ChatGPT launched in November 22 and reached 100 million users in just 2 months. Microsoft saw this and invested heavily because they thought by incorporating OpenAI's technology into their Office suite, they could lock customers in and keep them away from Google. Microsoft, in their classic style, pushed ahead aggressively to move quickly and break things. But it hasn't worked. And after 2 years of the biggest product push that Microsoft has ever done, only 3.3% of their 450 million Microsoft 365 users have actually converted into paid Copilot seats. When employees have access to Copilot, ChatGPT, and Gemini at the same time, only 8% choose Copilot. Copilot's accuracy and trust scores are deeply negative, and nearly half the people who have stopped using it said they didn't trust the answers. Even Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella himself reportedly told his engineers that the Copilot integrations didn't really work. The research is backing up what people who work in the industry like me are observing. The MIT study of over 300 enterprise AI implementations found that 95% failed to deliver any measurable impact on profit and loss. But the pattern is the same everywhere. These probabilistic large language models get dropped into messy enterprise environments with bad data, tangled permissions, and no governance. And guess what? It breaks. Big tech is aware of this, but their solution up until now is to just keep making models bigger and bigger until they brute force the trust issue. When that didn't work, they created RAG. And when that didn't work, they tried to convince everyone that agents were the only way forward. And there's now certainly a growing number of people, me included, that don't believe that the current approach to LLMs will ever work. Well, certainly not the way that it's being marketed today. We can't rely on technology that randomly gets things wrong a certain percentage of the time. The good news is, though, that many people have also come to the same realization. And there's a bunch of startups, including Kiraa that I founded, learning from the mistakes of the hyperscalers and trying to work out a better way forward. Now, this is interesting because it suggests the race for enterprise AI adoption is still up for grabs. And that's a good thing because it means that somebody else, other than Microsoft, will have the opportunity to do this properly. And this is what brings me to the idea of the diffusion pin. This is a term that I learned from Peter Lorre, who runs the Inductive Accelerator. And I really found it useful, so I thought I should share it on this channel. So think about the diffusion curve. The early adopter gets the genuine competitive advantage, but as the technology spreads out, that advantage closes. Everyone catches up, and what was once a differentiating technology becomes just the way that business works. A diffusion pin, however, is a deliberate strategy to prevent that from happening. Instead of rushing a half-baked technology out to 450 million users, you work with a handful of organizations to build it out properly. You put a pin in your customer's position on the diffusion curve, and you commit to them to keep them ahead while the technology is being refined and validated. And this is why the concept is so powerful for enterprise AI specifically, because in the consumer world, you can afford to ship something and iterate, especially if you're not really paying for it. It doesn't really matter if ChatGPT is a bit off. Nobody loses their job. But in the enterprise world, the tolerance for error is essentially zero. When your AI gets margin calculation wrong or surfaces the wrong information to the wrong person, careers could end, contracts could be lost, and even regulators could come knocking at your door. You don't get a second chance to earn trust with a CFO. So the diffusion pin respects the reality of early adoption technology. You essentially get an anchor customer who gets technology that's being built around their specific problems, refined in their environment, and validated against their data. You're not asking them to be a guinea pig amongst many. You're asking them to trust you that you will make the technology work for them and learn from those mistakes. But up until now, the tech industry's mantra has always been to move quickly and break things. But with a 95% failure rate and negative trust scores, that's just not good enough. So Microsoft made a huge mistake assuming that consumer-grade technology would automatically translate into enterprise applications. They've burned billions of dollars, and more importantly, they've burned the trust of their users. Maybe if they'd taken a different approach, a slower approach, or one that identified the right use cases early enough, we wouldn't be staring down the barrel of an AI bubble right now. But that, unfortunately, is still ahead of us. That's why I'm such a strong believer in this idea of a diffusion pin. Not only is it a smarter go-to-market strategy, it might be the only honest path to making enterprise AI actually work in situations where moving quickly and breaking things is not the right approach. I just hope that what comes next, whether it's what I'm building or what somebody else invents, they take the time to validate the technology with customers first. We would be foolish to repeat the same mistakes of social media all over again. And of course, I'd love to get your take on this idea of a diffusion pin. So please drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you and see you in the next one.